Hello everyone, welcome to our Excel Advanced Visualization series. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build these two very beautiful charts. This is a transparent cylinder chart, like liquid filled, while this is a filled bar chart. So now, filled pie chart, sorry. So now, this pie chart and this cylinder chart is dynamic. When I select between regions, so the figure changes. When the figure is higher, this pie chart fills in more. This fill chart, the liquid goes up more. So I'm going to show you how to quickly do this in this video. Let's go to a blank workbook. I have a data model in here. What I'm going to do is to insert power pivot, a pivot table. Then I'm going to use the workbook in this data model. So now I've selected the pivot table. Look, this is the data in here. So you can do this with the static data as well. You can just type the data in. So, but I want to make this dynamic. That is why I'm using a data model. So I come to my data. I want to see the revenue by the item sold. So this is it. Come to my home. Just make it a little bit fancy and readable. Then I'll sort from highest to lowest. So the next step for me is to insert my slicer. So I come to pivot table analyze. I come design. I think I'm supposed to see slicer around here. So I come to insert. So I put my slicer there. So I go to all and click on region. That's what I want. I'll change this to something lighter a bit. So when I select each region, the figure changes. And there is a feature on Excel that we call OLAP tools. The OLAP tools convert a pivot table to a formula and still makes it dynamic. So I copy, paste here. I come to pivot table analysis. I go to OLAP tools, I convert to formulas. It brings this warning. I click on OK. So it converts to formula. So when I continue going through this chart, going through these filters, you can see it keeps changing. So the next thing I will include is to include my percentages. So percentage contribution to sales, that will be equal to this over total. Then I'll freeze. I'll make this percentage 1 decimal place. Click down. Then I'll create the support column. This is the column that we hold support. This is the column that we hold this against. This column that will show that transparent part. This 1 minus this total. Okay. So the next thing to create is to create the column that I will store my data label. So I call it data label. That will be equal to, or let me just make it a static percentage. I want that to be static. So I make it 30%. So then I go to my top cover. Top cover. So I make this 12%. Then my bottom cover, I set it to 12% as well. Copy, paste. I've just created my table for the cylinder chart. The next thing I'm going to do is to insert. I go to insert and insert a bar chart. This is a bar chart right here. I insert a 3D bar chart that shows like 100% view, which is this. Bring this here and expand this a bit. The next thing I'm going to do now is to go to the chart, change these boxes to cylinder, change it to cylinder, and reduce the gap in between these charts a bit. But before I do that, let me remove this revenue part. because what I want to show is the percentage. So I click on one of these columns. I right click, I go to format data series. So on format data series, this my gap depth. Just to make the chart closer to each other, I change it to 0. Then this, I make this 40%, just to make it close to each other. Then I come to, instead of making it box here, I make it a cylinder. So we are gradually getting there. Let me expand this a bit. So the next step for me now is to format all these axes around here. So what I'm going to do is to remove this axis and remove the y-axis. I don't want to see the percentage. Also the grid lines as well. I can come here where you have this little plus sign and take out the grid lines and the chart title. So I'm gradually getting there. So here, I can click on this label and increase the font size. So let me say 18 is too big. Let me say like a 14. So 14 is fine. The next thing I'm going to do now is to change the colors of this cylinder chart to reflect as what we have in the chart that I showed earlier. So, or before I do that, before I actually do that, I'm going to order this my column. I want to see where the bottom cap is. I want to see where the top cap is before I start formatting and changing the colors. So let's quickly do that. So I right click, I go to select data. So it shows me this. So now I want to know where my bottom cap is, my top cap is. So I'll arrange this to reflect where I want them to be. So I take this my grand total. I'm going to take it out. So, but before I take it out, let me go back and take that grand total out of the chart because I don't want it to be part of the chart. So I take the grand total out so that I'll get more clarity. So I go back to select data. So for so now to do that, what I need to edit is actually this and not the service plan and all of this. So I switch row and column, right? So for my percentage contribution, I want my bottom cap to be at the bottom. So to achieve that, I have to bring the bottom cover. I have to bring it up here so it goes to the bottom of the chart. So my data label should be next after the bottom cap. So I bring it up, up, up here. So it's next here. The data label is right here. So my percentage contribution is here, is where it needs to be. My support column is where it needs to be. And my top cover is where it needs to be. So after this arrangement, I click on OK. So I want all my charts where they want to be. So the next thing is to start filling the chart with the colors I want them to be. Okay, so let's go to fill right here. Since the plot area is, so I go to solid fill. Okay, not for the plot area. So plot area, no fill. Then I go to my bar, each of the bar. So like for example, for this, let me start from the bottom cap. For the bottom cap, I go to solid fill. So I change that fill color to something like this. Be a bit light. Okay. This I can leave the transparency, let me say 25%. Right? Then the next thing is to go to the other cap, which is the support, the data label. Sorry. For the data label, I go to solid fill. I change this to quite a darker color. Change this to a darker color. Let me say this black. Yeah. Maybe I'll take the transparency to like 8%. So let me just leave that 8%. So the next thing is to come to my percentage contribution column. For the percentage contribution column, let me leave that first because I'm going to change it to different colors. So I come to the next one, which is support column. For the support column, I make the support column white. Yeah, I change the transparency to like let me see which one is suitable. Let me leave it as 53%. And you can see that you are gradually getting there. So now let's go to the top cap. So for the top cap, I make it a fill color and I change it to also this lighter color. So I change the transparency. Let me say okay, 14%. So we are done with this coloring except for the percentage contribution column. This I'm going to do one by one, right? For my service plan, for instance, so I can make the service plan. Let me say I make that purple, right? So I will take the transparency to like 25% or 24%. Let me go to my copier cell and make my copier cell red. So I take the transparency to 24%. Come to the next one, printer cell, and make this, let's say, green. Take transparency to 24% as well. Come to this last one. I make this, maybe I leave this as blue. And I take the transparency. So I leave this as this blue and take the transparency to 24%. I think just to be consistent. So the chart is gradually coming up. Yeah. So now I can click on the chart cylinder and right click. When I right click, I go to 3D rotation. Go to 3D rotation. Then on my X, just to give it a better orientation. So on my X rotation, I change that to 0. So Y, on the Y rotation, I make it like 25. Okay. So just to give it a better orientation from what we saw before. So now the chart is gradually taking shape. The next thing is to include our data labels. So include our data labels. So we come here to include this data label. So we come to insert text box. Let's see. Let's put a text box there. Let's just draw text box here. Then we'll go to the formula bar and do equal to our percentage contribution. Click on OK. So it gives us 61.5.1%. So for this, we also try to increase the font size and just change the font type to what is beautiful. So let's pick Arabic typesetting. Oh, this is not so. This hybrid. Let's pick hybrid 24. Let's expand this a bit. Or we can decide to pick anyone. Let's say we want to use Century Gothic, for instance, or Central. Let's use Central and see. So is that better? So let's use hybrid. Okay. So I think this is beautiful a bit. Let's change this to, let's say, 20. So we can place this here. Then for this, we'll have to remove the background color. We'll change it to no fill. So this is quite dark. We'll change the font size to white. And we remove the line. So no line. You can see 5.1%. Copy and paste this right here. So the same process, this is equal to copier cell, enter. So make it white, paragraph 20, font color white. So now copy this again, bring it here. So do this equal to, it will be equal to our printer sale, enter. Okay, change the font size, is 20, and make it white. If you can even decide to center the number. So copy this again here. Then we do the same thing for parts. So equal to parts right here. Click on OK. 11.5%. Click on this again. Change the font size to 20. Make it white, and we are good to go. You can select this and just align it a bit. Go to align. You can align top. So just to make it be on the same line. On this our chart, we can remove our, let's see, remove our background color. Let's go to no fill. So it takes out the background color from the chart. So and on our Excel, we can also copy this down to another Excel where we create our, this our worksheet. Let's copy this to another sheet where we create our dashboard. Okay. Okay, the numbers are disappearing. Let's bring the font. Oh, okay. So it seems the numbers didn't come along with it. Let's go back. Well, let's just make this dashboard here instead of taking it to another sheet. It's possible to do it here as well. So now, let's check if our filter works. So this is northeast, you can see. So it's still dynamic. So now, we are going to remove, go to our data or our view, sorry, go to view, remove our grid lines so that this the grid lines will not show. And all this here, we can just change this to, let's change the font size to white. Also, any color we want to color our background so that the font size will not show. Sorry. So another way of doing this is to actually group them. So shape format, group them as single unit so I can move them about. Since I'm successful in grouping them, I can as well copy them to a new sheet. So I should have grouped them before. Yeah. So now I can start creating my dashboard here. Okay. So this should move an entity. I start creating my dashboard on this particular Excel sheet. So copy this, come here, copy my slicer, and take it here. Let's check it. So it still works. Now we'll go to our data or view. Then we remove grid lines. And yeah, fantastic. So we have successfully created one of these charts, right? So we are going to do another video where you will create the other charts and just complete this dashboard. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.